All right, welcome back. We're all getting used to this, right? Tapping our phone to board a plane, prove our age. Digital IDs are just so convenient. But, behind that simple tap, there's this huge, complicated debate brewing about the future of our privacy and, honestly, our freedom.
And that really gets us to the heart of the matter here. Is your digital ID just a handy thing to have in your digital wallet? Or could it be a tool for, well, an unprecedented level of control? The thing is, the answer really comes down to one thing: how it's actually built.
So, people who are worried about this have a name for the worst case scenario. They call it the mass spy thesis. And the argument goes like this: a government led digital ID, which is sold to us as being super efficient, could quietly, almost accidentally, become the most powerful surveillance tool ever created. Now, this isn't just some vague fear. No, not at all. It's actually built on four very specific, very critical risks, and we're going to break them all down one by one. Okay, so first up, the metadata of existence. Think about it. When you show someone your physical driver's license, that's it. The interaction is over. But a digital ID, it has to ping a server every single time you use it. So every login, every time you buy something, every check-in, it all creates this little digital breadcrumb. And this is where it gets a little scary. Each one of those innocent-looking pings adds a dot to a map. And over time, well, all those dots start to connect. It allows governments to build what's being called a high-resolution life map that can track where you go, what you do, who you're with, all without ever needing a warrant. Which brings us to risk number two, and you can see how this starts to build. It's this idea of programmable rights. Because your identity is just code, it means it can be changed on the fly. Your rights are no longer set in stone, they can actually become conditional based on how you behave. And what's really alarming here is this concept of a kill switch. Critics are warning that if a government doesn't like something you did, maybe you went to a protest they didn't approve of, or you fell behind on your taxes, they could, in theory, just freeze your ID. And poof, you're instantly cut off from banking, travel, maybe even basic services. The third risk is a classic problem in the world of cybersecurity, but it's just blown up to this terrifying scale. It's called the Centralized Honeypot. Basically, when you take the identity data of every single person in a country and stick it in one giant government database, well, you've just created the ultimate, most tempting target for hackers. And here's the part that really gives me chills. Look, if your password gets stolen, it's a pain, but you can change it. But what this slide gets at is that if the biometric data tied to your ID, your face scan, your fingerprint, if that gets leaked, it's game over. It's compromised for life. You can't exactly change your face, right? The damage is just permanent. And last but not least, risk number 4 is something called function creep. History has shown us time and time again that surveillance tools almost never stay in their lane. A system that gets introduced for one simple, helpful reason, like making it easier to do your taxes, almost always expands its scope into other things, like policing and public monitoring. So, okay, after hearing all of that, you might be feeling a little doomed. I get it. But what if there's another way? What if there's a technological alternative that could give us all the convenience we want, but without all the control? Well, this alternative is built on a totally different philosophy. It's called self-sovereign identity. And instead of a top-down system, it's built on a pretty revolutionary idea that you, the individual, should own and control your identity. Not a government, not a corporation, you. Now, one really cool example of this philosophy in action is a protocol called Linkspreed UID. The main idea here is to decouple your sensitive personal data from the act of proving who you are. I know that sounds a bit technical, but let's break down what that actually means. This slide gives us the perfect, simplest example. Let's say you're buying a bottle of wine. With a normal government ID, you end up sharing way too much information: your name, your home address, your exact birth date. But with a system like UID, the verifier just gets a simple yes or no answer. It's something called a cryptographic proof. You can think of it like this. It's a special key that only fits a lock that's labeled over 18. The bouncer doesn't need to know your name. They just need to see that your key works. It proves something is true without revealing any of the data behind it. Pretty neat, huh? So how in the world does it do that? Well, it uses a really clever two-step process called a Vault-and-Alias system. First, as you can see, your most sensitive data stays locked away in a vault right there on your own device. It never, ever leaves your control. And then, for every single interaction, the system generates a totally unique disposable alias. This means the ID you use for your bank is completely separate from the one you use for social media. And that right there directly prevents that high-resolution life map we were so worried about earlier.
And this is absolutely crucial. This system just gets rid of the two biggest risks we talked about. By using what's called a distributed ledger, which really just means the data is spread out across a secure network instead of being in one single place, it completely eliminates that centralized honeypot. There's no single giant target for hackers anymore. And because there's no central authority, there is no kill switch. No one person or entity can just decide to turn off your identity. So let's just put it all together and look at the two paths ahead of us. On the left, you've got the centralized model. The state issues and controls your identity, your data is totally transparent to them, and they can track you constantly. And then on the right, you have this self-sovereign model, where you own your identity, your data is private, and tracking is basically prevented. I mean, the difference is just night and day, isn't it?
At the end of the day, this isn't just some nerdy tech debate. As the source material puts it so powerfully, this is really a battle for the soul of the internet. And frankly, it's a battle for the future of personal privacy itself. Which really leaves all of us with one final question to think about. As we move into this new digital age, which path are we going to choose? Will it be a future of glass box citizenship, where our lives are totally transparent to the state? Or will it be one where technology gives us back a digital cloak of privacy? The choice really is ours to make.